And then all we want to do is try to get one vertebrae down to touch at a time. So we want to drive our L5 down to the ground, L4, L3, L2, L1, and then on the way up, we're lifting our L1 first, and then L2, L3, L4, L5. And this right over here is the abdominal curl up. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to be your own therapist by demonstrating the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction, and more specifically, I'm going to be teaching you how to correct hyperlordosis in the lumbar spine. Before I actually get on with the exercises, I first want to explain what exactly hyperlordosis is and why exactly you should care. Hyperlordosis of the lumbar spine is when you get excessive extension in the lumbar spine, so you get excessive curvature. Ideally, you should have anywhere from 20 to 40 degrees of curvature in the lumbar spine. Whenever it goes beyond that, that is when it is going to be considered dysfunctional, and that is when it's going to be considered hyperlordotic. And if you don't address it, it can lead to things like low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, and foot pain. So you would want to address it immediately. And one of the ways in which we could address it would be to do some strengthening exercises for the muscles that are responsible for flexion of the lumbar trunk. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing for you guys today. So without further ado, here are the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis in the lumbar spine. For all of the strengthening exercises that I'm going to be demonstrating for you today, you're going to be in a supine position, meaning you're going to be laying down on your back. And the first strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis is going to be through the rectus abdominis, and more specifically, we're going to be targeting the subumbilical fibers, meaning the fibers below the umbilicus or your lower abdominals. We're going to go ahead and lay down on our back. Next, we want to stabilize the scapular girdle. To do that, we're going to place the arms at the level of the glenohumeral angle. Depending on your morphology, it's going to be different for anybody, but it's going to be anywhere from 90 to 135 degrees. For the average person, when your arms are at the level of your forehead or slightly higher, that's going to be the level of your glenohumeral angle. Then, from this position right over here, what we want to do is flex our hips and knees to 90 degrees. We want to maintain retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, our chin is tucked in, our crown of the head is pushing away, our eyes are looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension. And then for this exercise, all we want to do is elevate the knees. So we're going to go into flexion of the lumbar spine by driving our knees toward the ceiling, and we want to try and get as high as possible to the level of the L3, which is roughly the level of the umbilicus. And this right over here is the strengthening exercise for the rectus abdominis, specifically the subumbilical fibers. A couple things worth noting is you want to go straight up and down. You don't want to bring your knees toward your chest. And also, depending on your level, if you are just starting out with this exercise, a lot of people are going to have difficulty getting really high up. So even if you're only able to lift a millimeter off the ground, that's good enough. And then eventually, once you build up enough strength, you should be able to get up a lot higher. But next, the second strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis is going to be for the external oblique. For the external oblique, once again, we're targeting the subumbilical fibers, meaning the fibers below the umbilicus or your lower obliques. Then, for this one right over here, the setup position is pretty much identical in terms of the upper body. We want retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown the head away, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. At the arms, we want them at the level of the glenohumeral angle to stabilize the scapular girdle. And then, what we want to do for the external oblique, we're going to prop the ipsilateral leg, we're going to flex the hip and knee to 90 degree. Ipsilateral meaning if my left leg is elevated, I'm training the left external oblique. Then with the contralateral leg, what I want to do is I'm going to wrap it over the top of my thigh. And I want to make sure that I go into adduction of 30 to 45 degrees. The reason we're flexing the legs is because we want to release some of the tension on the rectus abdominis muscle. And then from this position right over here, what I want to do is I want to do a combination of flexion and rotation. I'm going to do that by driving my contralateral hip toward my ipsilateral shoulder. So right now I want to bring my right pelvis toward my left shoulder, and I'm training the left external oblique. And this is the strengthening exercise for the external oblique, specifically the subumbilical fibers. Next, the third strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis of the lumbar spine is going to be for the internal oblique. For the internal oblique, same setup position. Flat, we want retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head away, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. With the arms, put them at the level of the glenohumeral angle so we can stabilize the scapular girdle. Then, with the ipsilateral leg, we're going to flex the hip and knee to 90 degrees. With a contralateral leg, we're going to go ahead and wrap it over top and go into adduction of 30 to 45 degrees. Then, for this one right over here, what we want to do is we are going to do a flexion. So we're going to drive our knees toward the ceiling, and we're going to have a component of a side bend. So what we want to do is we're going to do an ipsilateral hike of the pelvis. So we want to bring the left pelvis toward the left shoulder to train the left internal oblique. So we're going into elevation or flexion and then doing a component of a side bend. So up, side bend, and back down. And this is the strengthening exercise for the internal oblique. Specifically, we are targeting the subumbilical fibers. Next, The fourth strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis of the lumbar spine is going to be the abdominal roll and unroll. For this one right over here, we're doing a roll and unroll of the lumbar spine. So what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and get into our curl up position, and then all we want to do is try to get one vertebrae down to touch at a time. So we want to drive our L5 down to the ground, L4, L3, L2, L1, and then on the way up, we're lifting our L1 first, and then L2, L3, L4, L5. And this right over here is the abdominal curl up. With regard to this exercise right over here, if you're unable to get all the way down to the ground and come back up, you can take a cable machine or a band and use it as assistance. The more weight that you have, the easier it's going to be. But that is the abdominal curl up. And then last, the fifth and final strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis of the lumbar spine is going to be the low pulley cable pull-in. For the low pulley cable pull-in, if you don't have a cable machine, you can also do this as a leg raise or a knee tuck, where you are just bringing your knees and lifting your sacrum off the ground. For me, I'm going to be using the cable machine, but it's essentially the exact same motion. You want to go ahead and grab some ankle straps. You're going to strap your ankles in, and then what you want to do for this one is when you are laying down, you want to make sure that you bring your knees toward your chest, and you want to bring them high enough that your sacrum lifts up off the ground. By lifting the sacrum up off the ground, we're going to get a lot more recruitment of the rectus abdominis muscle, but this is the exercise right over here. You can place your hands by your side, or you can place them down if you need a little bit more stability, and all you want to do is tuck your knees toward your chest. Make sure your sacrum lifts up off the ground, and this is the low pulley cable pull-in. And there you have it. Those were the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis in the lumbar spine. If you have hyperlordosis, or if you have issues with regard to low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, or foot pain, go ahead and give those exercises a try. And if you have given them a try, go ahead and drop your comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought of the exercises. In terms of the actual programming, what you want to do is 3 sets of 50 repetitions for each of those strengthening exercises. And the reason we're going so high with the repetitions is because we're trying to elicit a postural change. Whenever we're trying to elicit a postural change, one of the most important things is going to be accumulating enough time under tension. And if we do the typical 8 to 12 bodybuilding repetition rep range, we're not going to be able to accumulate that time under tension. So 3 sets of 50 repetitions is what you want to do for each of the exercises. And then this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m., I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for posture correction to correct hyperlordosis in the lumbar spine. And those are going to be a terrific complement to incorporate with the strengthening exercises that we did today. So be out on the lookout for that this Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.